If you had told me that by the end of the day today, I would be rejecting a girl that wants to hook up with me, I would have thought you must be mentally challenged because that makes absolutely zero sense. Like, you're telling me that a girl actually wants to hook up with me, a 36-year-old man that works at a car wash and still lives with his mom, and I reject her offer, that's, you know, I would have said that's preposterous. That's just preposterous. That could not be the case. There's no way in hell I'm turning down a good time with a woman that I am attracted to because why would I do that? I've gone 36 years so far with no action whatsoever, and my opportunities historically have been slim to none. So, how did this happen? Because that is what's happening. There is a woman that wants to hook up with me, and I did turn her down. It's already happened. I already rejected her. So, how? Why? Why did I turn down the opportunity to have intimate relations with a woman for the first time? Well, I will go ahead and say, and I'm sure some of you already guessed this, but I am talking about LaFonda. And if you're new to the channel or if you just missed the last couple of videos, I'll do my best to kind of recap everything leading up to this point. But yeah, here's what happened. And by the way, the reason I turned her down is probably not what you're thinking. Today was just really unexpected in a lot of ways. But anyways, this is what happened. I woke up today, just a normal day like any other, I woke up, got ready for another boring day at the car wash. No expectations. Although, I mentioned this in the last video, but Jamal had texted LaFonda to try to set something up between us because he seemed to be pretty sure that she'd still be down to clown, so to speak. But she had never responded to him, the last I heard. So, I figured that was that. We met the other day at the party. We were supposed to hook up. I had my chance. And then the universe said, you know what? On second thought, nah, nothing's happening. And yeah, nothing happened. And I just figured she'd come to her senses after that. Because like I said, Jamal had texted her to try to set up another time for us to meet or whatever. Because, by the way, I never got her number or anything. I actually did try to look her up to see if I could find her on social media. And I did. I found her Facebook. But I didn't really want to just, send her a message out of the blue. Like, hey, LaFonda, are you still interested in letting me clap them cheeks? You still want to let me clap them cheeks, LaFonda? I didn't want to just send a crazy DM out of the blue like that. That might be kind of weird, but, whatever. It doesn't matter because the universe decided to bless me with another chance. Which, cosmically speaking, that is the only fair way for it to go because it wasn't my fault that nothing happened the first time we met. That was just, yeah, it doesn't matter anyways. Because when I went into work today, Jamal was already there, and as soon as he saw me, he ran up to me all excited like, player, I got some news for you, player. He was calling me player, whatever, when a cool black guy is calling you player, it makes you feel cool, So I just right off the bat, even if he had just been coming up to me to say something retarded, it already put me in a good mood. It already had me feeling like, okay, I'm cool. I'm cool, I'm player. That's me. That's my new identity. I'm player. I'm cool. But yeah, whatever. That's all right. Now that everybody's cringe levels are maxed out, I'll just go ahead and continue with my story. So, anyways, Jamal came up to me, kind of all excited. At first thing, when I first got to work, and he told me that he had talked to LaFonda, and he said that she wants to meet up with me. And to anyone listening to this, if you missed the last couple videos and you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, basically my coworker Jamal has been trying to set me up with this girl that he knows for her to take my V card. And I don't know why this girl would be willing to do this just because my coworker asked her to. I've tried to ask him about it, like, what's the deal? What is really going on here? Like, is she a professional? Are you paying her? What's the deal? And every time I ask, he just keeps denying it. He just says, she's a hoe. She's just a hoe. That's all there is to it. She's just a hoe. So I don't know if that's true or not, and I don't really care that much. She's not particularly attractive or anything. Literally, she's just like the average fat black girl. Probably mid to late 20s, but I don't really know. But yeah, I was down to clown. And when I did meet her, she was really nice to me. She was very sweet, actually. Truly, she has a very charming personality. I like her as a person. And when I did meet her in person, when I met her, I knew for sure, like, yeah, it would definitely be a good time if we did do this. Because just, everything about her personality and the way she acted, it was like, it would be a great time if something did happen between us. But nothing did happen, and I thought that was going to be the end of it until this morning when I got to work, and all of a sudden, Jamal comes up to me, playa, 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 and I find out it's back on. It's back on. So, I was very happy to hear that. It's safe to say that was a good start to the workday. That was a great start to the workday. So, yeah, I was happy to hear it. So then fast forward a few hours, actually probably like 6 hours later, Jamal comes up to me and he tells me that LaFonda is actually about to stop by for some business and she wants to talk to me. So I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but I actually did confirm the other day that Jamal does do some off-label pharmaceutical sales, which is something I suspected, but I didn't really know for sure until the other day. But yeah, so that's why LaFonda was coming by, but I guess also because she wanted to talk to me. And it does seem likely to me that Jamal is paying her one way or another, to hook up with me. But by this point, I wasn't asking any questions. I just wanted to do it. And I already asked him like 2 or 3 times if he was paying her, and he just denies it every time I ask. So, I don't know if he is or not. And at this point, I didn't really care. Anyways, so LaFonda pulls into the parking lot, and Jamal went over to talk to her while I was finishing up washing a car. And then a couple minutes later, after I finished up, I went over there too. And as soon as I walked up, Jamal was like, all right, I'll leave y'all to it. And he walked away and he went back over to the garage. So LaFonda immediately got real close to me and she started touching my arm and she was running her fingernail up and down my arm. It's kind of hard to describe, but yeah, she was like running her fingernail up and down my arm very softly, and it felt pretty good. It felt really good, actually. If you saw it, you would know what I mean. But yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. But she was standing real close, touching my arm, touching my chest, and she's not honestly, she's not particularly attractive, but she's got this way about her, like when she's real close to me like that and talking in that soft, seductive voice like she was doing, it easily gives her like an additional 2 points on the 1 to 10 scale. Maybe 3 points. Maybe even 4. Yeah, like it makes her so much more attractive. So she was right up on me, like just standing like inches away from me, basically like caressing my arms and my chest and everything. And she was saying she was saying sorry that she left the party without me the other day. And then she was saying, like, you don't have to be nervous because, I mean, I was nervous. Just while she's sitting there talking to me, my heart was beating out of my chest pretty much. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I was visibly nervous because she said something about it. But yeah, so she was like, you don't have to be nervous. And she said that she can't wait to hang out with me. And I wasn't really saying much. I mean, up to that point, I don't think I said anything at all other than hello when I first saw her. But she asked me if I want to try again. That's how she phrased it. Like, do you want to try again? And I said, yeah, I do. And then she started rubbing my leg, like rubbing my thigh kind of near my pocket. And she was staring me right in the eyes while she was doing it. And she asked me if my phone was in my pocket. Because when she was rubbing my leg, I guess what she was doing was she was trying to feel if my phone was there. So I said, yeah. And then she put her hand in my pocket and she grabbed my phone and she was staring me right in the eyes the whole time while she's grabbing my phone out of my pocket. And, if I'm being honest, I am torqued up right now just thinking about it. Because honestly, it's like if I was just out shopping at TJ Maxx or whatever and I just saw LaFonda there, not knowing anything about her, I probably wouldn't even notice her. And I definitely wouldn't think like, hey, this woman is attractive. Because truly, she's not anything special looks wise. But the way she reached into my pocket and grabbed my phone, all the while holding eye contact the entire time, and just everything about how she was acting, like, damn. I'm actually surprised at just how attractive she became to me just because of how she was acting. And looking back now, I don't think this is actually what was happening, but the whole situation is a little bit fishy. And I have to wonder if maybe when she took my phone like that, maybe that was some kind of setup because she took my phone out of my pocket and then she asked me to unlock it so she could put her number in. So, I can't help but wonder, what if this whole thing was a setup and the whole deal was for her to try to look through my phone and Venmo herself some money or something like that? I don't think that's it, but that is kind of in the back of my head that could be the thing, that her and Jamal are working together on that. but I think it's a pretty low likelihood of that actually being what was going on because, you know, I work with Jamal. I know where he works. Like it would be easy for me to just call the cops on him and send them his way. So, you know, if this was some kind of setup, it would be the stupidest setup known to man. So I don't think anything like that was actually going on, but it is kind of in the back of my head. I'm not ruling it out completely, but either way, you know, I did just unlock my phone and give it to her, and she put her number in. And by the way, I don't even have Venmo or Cash App or any kind of like there's nothing valuable somebody could get out of going through my phone. You know, you couldn't send yourself any money. I don't have any cryptocurrency apps. Like there's nothing valuable you could get out of it. You know, so it's not like I was actually putting myself in any kind of danger by giving her my phone. But yeah. So anyways, I did unlock my phone and let her take it and put her number in. And as far as I can tell, I'm pretty sure she was just actually just giving me her number. So yeah, she gave me my phone back and she told me to text her tonight when I get off. And she asked me what time I get off and everything. And I told her I'm not 100% sure that I could hang out with her tonight since it's kind of short notice and I have to check to make sure with my mom that it's okay because, you know, I got to make sure that I have access to the car and everything and got to make sure that my baby cousin is good for the night and all that. And I didn't actually tell LaFonda all of that, you know, like I wasn't actually like, well, LaFonda, I would love to meet up with you and clap your cheeks tonight, but I have to ask my mother for permission first. You know, obviously I didn't say all that. I just told her I had something to do, but I could probably get out of it, so I'd let her know. But anyways, so she left, and yeah, before she left, she kissed me, like on the lips. And I was not ready for that at all. You know, I did not expect her to kiss me, especially not on the lips, but she just did. You know, she did it really fast. So yeah, a woman kissed me on the lips, and you know, honestly, from all of the events that transpired today, because I haven't even talked about the main thing yet. You know, I'll get to that in a minute, but just from everything that happened today, I'm starting to think maybe all the comments are right. Maybe I am a fake sale. You know, everybody that's been leaving comments gaslighting me about my looks, maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe y'all are right. Maybe I'm actually not sub 5. Because if I'm actually sub 5, then none of the things that happened to me today make any sense. Because it's not even like I've been putting myself out there or anything. You know, this whole thing with LaFonda and the next part that I haven't even talked about yet, it's pretty much just, these things are just happening to me. You know, so I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think it's pretty unlikely that every other life experience I've had up to this point was like I was just misreading everything all these years up to this point. I think that's pretty unlikely. So I probably am sub 5 or at least borderline, but I don't know. I'm just like, am I just fantastically lucky or something? Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me right now. Because these things, yeah, we'll get into it. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard for me to even believe that what happened tonight And like I said, I haven't even said the main thing yet. I haven't even talked about the main thing that's even more unbelievable than everything with LaFonda. Is so, oh my goodness. It's hard. Yeah, so LaFonda gave me her number, or, well, what she did was she texted herself from my phone. So I have her number that way. And then she left. And maybe like 30 minutes to an hour after she left, she texted me and just said, "You better text me." And she put a smiley face. So here's where things get interesting. So at closing time, it was just me, Jamal, and the Indian girl that works at the desk. And we were the only ones there at closing. And usually Jamal actually would have left like an hour before closing, but he ended up staying just because we had a bunch of customers come through at the last minute. But, anyways, so after the last customer left, it was already past closing time. So Jamal left. And so after we close, there's not really a lot of things to do. You know, for me, I just have to make sure all the cleaning supplies and everything, that all that stuff's put away. And I got to make sure that all the trash cans are emptied. And then I have to mop up the inside of the building and just like tidy up the little waiting room area, you know, make sure all the chairs are straightened out and everything. And the Indian girl, I don't know what all she does. I know she has to like count the money and maybe some other kind of paperwork or, you know, doing something on the computer. I don't really know what she has to do, but yeah. So if you remember, the last time I worked, the Indian girl pretty much chewed me out for smoking at work because me and Jamal and another guy had smoked a blunt out back when it was slow. And I guess she did not like that. So she pretty much chewed me out. You know, she scolded me like I was a child, really. Like she was the teacher and I was a child misbehaving in class. So all day today, she was pretty much just acting normal. You know, it didn't seem like she was holding a grudge against me or anything like that, but it's not like she would usually had been talking to me much anyways. So I didn't really think anything about it. So as far as I could tell, she was acting normal as if nothing ever happened, which just means she didn't even acknowledge me all day because that's, you know, that's what normal is. I mean, usually we'll say hi to each other in the morning or whatever, but on a day like today where it was mostly pretty busy all day, you know, there wasn't really any time where it would have made sense for us to say hello to each other. So when it was just me and her there at closing, you know, we were both inside the building. She was at the desk counting the money or whatever she was doing, and I was just cleaning up, you know, mopping up and everything. And I guess she did some cleaning too, like wiping down the desk and whatever. But yeah, so the whole time for like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes or whatever, however long we were in there together, both doing what we got to do before closing, she didn't say anything to me and I didn't say anything to her. We just both silently finished our work, and then I was starting to leave because usually if I'm closing, I leave first, and then either the owner or the Indian girl, whichever one of them is working that day, they'll leave a little bit later because they're the ones that actually lock up and everything. So I finished all of my stuff and I was about to walk out the door, and then she just suddenly asked, "Was that your girlfriend?" And I was like, it actually startled me because I wasn't expecting her to say anything, but I was just like, what? Who? Because I didn't even realize that she had seen me talking to LaFonda out in the parking lot. So I didn't know what she was talking about. So I was just like, who? Then she said, the girl in the parking lot. So I said, no, that's just my friend. And she said, but you kissed her. So then I said, well, she's Jamal's friend, but he was trying to set us up, so we're going to be hanging out tonight. And then, so I think I've mentioned before that this girl has a very, like, she's just very abrasive with how she talks to people. She's not necessarily rude, but she just kind of comes off that way sometimes. And she's pretty much like fresh off the boat, by the way. So some of this might just be the language barrier, but she definitely might be racist just based on some of the things I've heard her say to some of my coworkers. Although, in her defense, the only times I've heard her say anything racist is there was one time when Jamal was hitting on her, I guess, and she said something to him like, I don't like black guys. And then he called her racist, and she just said, yes. And another time, I didn't actually see this, but somebody told me about it. I guess one of my coworkers was just talking about her, like, talking about how good she looks or whatever. And he didn't know that she was nearby and she could hear him. And from what I was told, she used the hard R. But that's all hearsay. I don't know if that actually happened. It probably did. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But yeah, anyways, in both of those instances, she was kinda just defending herself. If she did use the hard R against the guy, that's, she could have gone about it in a different way. It's not the way it's not something I would have said, but in her defense, if that is true, she was just defending herself, I guess. So anyways, I told her that me and LaFonda were supposed to be hanging out tonight, and then she just goes, and this really caught me off guard. She just blurted out, if you sleep with her, you will get AIDS. So, as you can imagine, I was not expecting that. I was not expecting her to say anything like that. And I really just didn't know what to say in response. So I was just standing there processing what I just heard. And she was like, do you want to get AIDS? So I just said, no. And I said, I don't think she has AIDS, but we're just going to be hanging out anyways. And then she said, why would you date a black girl? And so I just pretty much repeated myself. I said, we're just going to be hanging out. And I said, I don't care that she's black. And so the Indian girl said, like, so you would date a black woman? And I said, yeah, I guess, if she's nice to me and we like each other. And then she said something like, so you would just date any girl that's nice to you? And I was just like, yes, probably. Then again, she was like, well, she said, that's pathetic. And then she said again that if I sleep with her, I'm going to get AIDS. So, I didn't know what to say. I was just standing there thinking, like, I don't know why she's acting like this. I guess she just really hates me or something. And it was kind of like everything she was saying, it was pretty surprising, but at the same time, it was like, well, the last time she said anything to me, she was just yelling at me for pretty much no reason. So I'm just thinking, this girl is kind of crazy. So none of this stuff was that surprising to me, but I'm just standing there silently, so I didn't even respond to the last thing she said because, I couldn't think of anything to say in response to that. I didn't know what to say. which is, whatever. That's how I always am. I'm very shy in general. So she probably didn't even really expect me to say anything to it. But yeah, so I was just standing there, not saying anything. And then after a few seconds of me not saying anything, then she just blurted out, "She is ugly," talking about LaFonda. So I said, "I don't think she's ugly." And then the Indian girl said, "If she's pretty, then I must be a supermodel." Or I'm pretty sure that's what she meant. I remember she phrased it kind of weird, but yeah, she was trying to say that, like, if I think LaFonda is attractive, then in comparison, she, the Indian girl, must be a supermodel. But I know she did use the word pretty. Like she said, if she's pretty, then I must be blah, 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 whatever she said. Because I remember thinking, like, I didn't even say that I think she's pretty. I just said, I don't think she's ugly. But, anyways, so the Indian girl was like, if she's pretty, then I must be a supermodel. And I didn't say anything because I was just like kind of dumbfounded. I was kind of feeling like, like what do you do when a crazy person is saying crazy things to you? You just kind of wait for it to stop. So that's kind of how I was feeling. So I didn't say anything. And then after like 3 or 4 seconds, something like that, she was like, "Do you agree?" And I was having a bit of trouble keeping up with what she was saying because, for one, I wasn't expecting her to be talking to me today at all, especially not like whatever this was. And then also, she does have a pretty thick accent. She's pretty much fresh off the boat from India. So I can understand her most of the time, but it takes me a second. Like after she says something, I'm not understanding the words as soon as she says them. I have to let her finish a sentence. Then, I use the full context of the whole sentence to try to piece together what it is that she actually said. So I have to think about it for a little bit just to even understand her, just because of her accent. And it's the same thing when I talk to her uncle, who's the owner of the car wash. And I mean, I think that's just how it is when you talk to someone that has any kind of thick accent. But it's not just the accent, I guess, because it's also like sometimes she phrases things in a way that is not what I would expect. But I'm just saying that to say, that's why the whole time she was talking to me, pretty much any time that she asked any kind of question, I pretty much have to ask her to repeat herself because it's very hard for me to understand her. So, anyways, so she asked me, "I am more pretty than the black girl. Do you agree?" And I still didn't understand what she was saying. And I think it's because she was phrasing the question kind of weird, like not in the way that a native English speaker would phrase things. So I just sat there for a couple seconds trying to figure out what the hell she even said. And I mean, looking back, I guess I did actually understand what she said, but it was just such an unexpected question. I thought I must have heard wrong. I must have heard her wrong because surely she didn't just ask me if I think she's more pretty than LaFonda. But she did. So yeah, the first time she asked, I just said, "What?" And then she repeated herself. "I am more pretty than the black girl. Do you agree?" Now, by this point, I'm sure some of you see where this is going, but in the moment, I was just like, I had no idea what was going on. I'm thinking like, is she having a psychotic episode? Or, really, I was just thinking that she's on her special time, her special time of the month. and she's just targeting me to let out all of her anger on me because I'm an easy target. And she already yelled at me the other day. So it wouldn't be that surprising for her to just be antagonizing me like that again. So that's kind of what I was thinking was happening. So I didn't even realize what the truth was. I didn't even realize what was actually going on, even though now in hindsight, it all makes sense. But yeah, so she asked me if I think she's prettier than LaFonda. And, if I'm being honest, neither one of them are anything special in the looks department. But the Indian girl is definitely, she's the more attractive one. She's more attractive in the face and she's more attractive in the body. Like, the Indian girl is just better looking than LaFonda. If I'm being honest. So, I probably would have lied anyways if I had to, just because at the time I was afraid she might stab me or something. But I didn't have to lie, so I just told the truth. So I said, yes, confirming that I think she is prettier than LaFonda. And then she said, trying to remember exactly how she phrased it, but basically she said, okay, so don't date her, you date me. And I heard what she said, but it was like my brain wasn't even able to compute, because I was pretty sure that this girl did not like me at all, because the last time I saw her, she scolded me like I'm a child or something, pretty much for no reason. And now, looking back, knowing what I know now, I'm starting to view that whole interaction in a completely different light. But at the time, I just, my brain literally just could not comprehend that she actually said what she said. So again, she was like, okay, so don't date her, you date me. And I just said, what? So she repeated herself, don't date the black girl, you date me. And that's when, when she said it for the second time, that's when I think I started to actually piece together the whole rest of the conversation up to that point. And like the other day when she was so mad about me smoking at work, that makes more sense now. So, my adrenaline was through the roof at this point, as you can imagine, because the realization was starting to hit me of what she was actually saying to me and what she was asking me. This thick Indian cutie just told me to date her, not even asked, she told me. And I was still kind of thinking what's the catch? What's going on here? What's actually happening here? And I also wondered if maybe she really is just so racist that she actually believes that all black women have AIDS and she's really just trying to save me. From her perspective, she sees me about to jump off a cliff and she's just trying to pull me back. She's just trying to save me. So that thought did cross my mind, but probably not. I'm like 99% sure that's not the deal. But that thought did cross my mind. Another thought I had is maybe she's trying to get a green card. I don't know how that works, and I don't know if she would need to get married to an American citizen to get a green card, or I don't even really know what a green card is. I don't know how anything about the immigration system works, but she's already going to school. She's in grad school here in the US. So I don't know that she would need me or another chump American man to help her immigrate. She is here now. She's already here. So, yeah, I don't know, but that's another thought that has crossed my mind. But for now, I'm just going to try to stay positive, and I'm just going to work under the assumption that she actually likes me. And if it turns out to be something else, then so be it. But I'm just going to try to stay optimistic about this until I have a reason not to be. But yeah. Oh, and I forgot to finish the whole story, because there is a little bit more to this. So she said, "Don't date the black girl, you date me." And I didn't know if she meant like that she wants to hang out tonight or what. So I said, "You mean you want to go on a date tonight?" And she said, "No, she's studying tonight." And she said, "We can go on a date soon, maybe tomorrow." So I said, "Okay." Then she said, she was like, "If you date the black girl, then you can't date me." And she said she would find out if I did. She would find out if I did hang out with LaFonda. And I told her, like, "Okay, I'm not going to go out with her. I promise." And then she said, "Tell her you won't date her. Call her now and tell her." So I was like, "Well, I'll text her." And she was like, "Okay, that's fine. Text her and show me. Show me the text." So I took my phone out and I texted LaFonda. I said, what did I say? I can just read it right now. I said, "Sorry, I can't hang out tonight. Something came up." And so I sent that to LaFonda, and then I showed the Indian girl, and I had already sent the message before I showed her. And so she read it, and then she was like, "Tell her you have a girlfriend. Do it. Show me." You know, she was being very demanding, which, I kind of, I wasn't against it. But yeah, so I was trying to think of what exactly to write because, I didn't want to be rude about it. LaFonda had been very nice to me. She's really just a sweetheart. And I wanted to let her down easy. I did not want to be mean about it. So I was trying to think of what to write. And then after a few seconds, the Indian girl was like, "Did you change your mind?" And I was like, "No, I'm just thinking of what to say." And she said, "Say you have a girlfriend. It's easy. Just say that." So I did just that. I just texted LaFonda, "I have a girlfriend." Then I showed the Indian girl, and she was like, "Good." And by the way, even now, I don't know if she actually considers us to be boyfriend and girlfriend now. I am 100% on board with that if she does, but I don't know if she actually does think that or if she just wanted to make sure that LaFonda knew for sure that I wasn't going to be hanging out with her. I don't know. I kind of think that she does already consider me to be her boyfriend because, obviously it's very sudden. The whole thing is very weird. Like, never in a million years would I have expected this to happen. And yeah, I mean, obviously, it's weird as fuck. But, I think this girl is just kind of crazy, maybe. And, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with that. Believe it or not, I like her. I do. Like, I like her. And we've been texting tonight, ever since we left work a few hours ago. We've been texting each other, just, having a conversation. And yeah, it was weird when we left because, like, I didn't know if I should try to hug her or something because I walked her to her car and I said something like, okay, I'll text you tonight if that's okay. And she was like, yeah, please do. Then, I'm kind of standing there, and this is the same thing that this happened once when I met up with single mother at the park. I think it was like the first time we had like a little play date with the babies. Um, where it was like I didn't know if we were supposed to hug when we were leaving or what. So I just stand there awkwardly. And it was like that same situation all over again, except now this time it's like the woman in question is the Indian girl who is possibly my girlfriend. And so, I probably should have just reached out and hugged her, but, I don't know. I didn't. I was just standing there. And she didn't hug me, but she like grabbed both of my arms. So it was kind of like a hug, I guess, but her arms weren't actually wrapped around me. She just kind of, with her hands, grabbed each of my arms, like my forearms. I don't know, kind of weird. It was basically something similar to a hug. I don't know. But yeah, so she did that and she just looked at me for a few seconds and then she was just like, okay, bye. And I said bye. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should have kissed her. I don't know. But like, I mean, I'm also kind of like, I'm a little bit afraid of her. I fear her wrath because she seems to be kind of crazy, perhaps. And I've already seen her go off on me before. And now I'm sure it would be 1,000 times worse if I did something to set her off. So I'm already a total freaking freeze cell, but I'm like extra hesitant with this girl now because she like, not only does she have a temper, but she's very decisive too. So, yeah, I probably should have at least tried to hug her, but whatever. That doesn't really matter. I don't really benefit from overanalyzing situations like this, but whatever. It is what it is. So, yeah, I guess maybe I have a girlfriend now. And I also rejected a girl today. The beautiful LaFonda, especially if we're talking about inner beauty. I mean, she truly is just what a sweetheart. And I mean, that was pretty much a sure thing. I rejected a sure thing. Like literally right now, I'm talking into this microphone, recording this for you to listen to. But instead of doing this right now, I could be with LaFonda right now. And, I could be having the time of my life. I pretty much know that if I was with LaFonda right now, instead of doing what I'm doing, I would be having the time of my life. I could be, I'll just say it, I could be balls deep in the African wilderness right now. Or, I don't know. I mean, I guess wilderness isn't really the right word because that would imply, like, the untamed wilderness. But I'm pretty sure LaFonda has been tamed, so to speak, probably hundreds of times, or probably thousands of times, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's it's an interesting situation that I find myself in currently. I had a surefire opportunity to lose my V card tonight. I could be doing that right now, but I chose not to. And not only that, but I also might have a girlfriend. And, I don't know her very well. And she does have a very abrasive personality. And she's like, not even probably, she is definitely some kind of crazy. She is possibly actually insane. But I do like her, actually. Like, this isn't just me accepting her offer reluctantly, or like, this isn't me just settling out of desperation, or just because she took the lead or she like intimidated me into it. I am really happy about this, and I am really excited to get to know her better. And yeah, like, if you know anything about me, then you already know I am very worried about messing this up somehow, but I'm also just really happy about it. I think that she's pretty cool. All things aside, she is a little bit crazy, but I think she's pretty cool. And I like her. And I'm not even like, I don't even care really that I'm missing out on clapping LaFonda's cheeks right now, because honestly, I would rather hold hands with the Indian girl than live out my wildest fantasies with LaFonda. And that's not even a debate. That is an easy decision. So, yeah, I'm going to be hanging out with her tomorrow, I think, because, yeah, we've been texting all night tonight. So I think we've decided on tomorrow for our first date. So, I'm going to be going on a date with my girlfriend. She's maybe my girlfriend. Maybe, I don't know it. I don't know. We're going to be hanging out tomorrow. And, um, I can't, I can't believe this. Like, I can't believe this is actually happening. Like, talking about all this out loud is just like, I think it's really starting to set in, like, right now as I'm speaking, because yeah, I feel like I've been kind of sleep deprived, and just in kind of the mental fog, and with everything that happened today, just all day, interacting with LaFonda, and LaFonda, rubbing up on me, like rubbing my arms, and she she kissed me, you know, and then my whole interaction with my girlfriend, I guess. Um, you know, it's like it's like it's just now kind of settling in, like the adrenaline's dying down, and whatever. So I'm gonna be hanging out with her tomorrow. That's the plan, anyways. We're supposed to be getting lunch, so I promise I will make a video talking about that. I will give an update as soon as I can. And I don't even care if you subscribe. I don't care if you like the video, because I like the freaking video. This might be the best day of my life.